So the recruits are pretty useless.
Right away, sir.
They deal almost...
On my way.
So the recruits were pretty useless.
the area.
They deal almost no damage, and they die pretty quickly.
Yes, sir. Sir. Yes, sir.
You can see here, they can't even get their attacks in.
Ready to fight, sir.
It's 4 to 5 damage.
Ready. Securing the area.
The armsmen were a better version of the recruits. If
Ready
you,
for action, the
once you get
enemy.
armsmen, you didn't really need recruits anymore.
Yes, sir.
They deal way better damage, like double the damage the
Sir,
recruits
never
deal.
give up.
They also take less damage, or
Ready
they
to
take
fight,
longer to die.
Eyes open. Sir. All right. Sir.
So recruits
Yes,
have been
sir.
changed to use the Hallet skin,
Ready to fight,
and they've
sir.
been given a shield.
Awaiting your order.
Their role
in the
now
area.
is to just be
Right away,
tanks
sir.
on the front line.
On my way.
They will deal
sir.
practically no damage. Before they used to deal 4 to 5 damage, you'll
Yes,
see now
sir.
they deal 1 to 2, so they won't
Yes,
deal
sir.
really much damage.
Sir.
But
Yes,
look
sir.
how much
Never
damage
give
they
up.
can take.
Awaiting your orders.
If I speed things up here, they will take a huge amount of damage.
Never give up. Awaiting your orders. Fortify
They'll
and
hold for an
defend your
extremely
line.
long time now.
Engaging the enemy. Never give up.
They can just about manage to kill one of these tree wraiths, and they're about the same. They're the same level. My rune is level 7, whereas the tree wraiths are level 7.
Sword ready, sir. Ready for action.
So you might be thinking, now why did I do that? They're even more
Awaiting
useless
your
than
right
before.
away,
Well,
sir.
not really.
Right away, sir.
Because the spearmen, the armsmen, I have reduced
Eyes
their
open,
armor.
on my
I
way,
have given
sir.
them a
Yes,
debuff
sir.
to their health, so
Securing the area.
they die a lot quicker now. You'll see 4 recruits could barely take out 1 tree wraith. Gonna finish off this tree wraith here.
They're attacking.
Look how much damage they're taking. Now they deal a lot more damage. More damage than even in
Eyes
vanilla.
open. Sword ready, sir.
Or just about the same damage. They will inflict slow fighting, inability, and they will also inflict
Ready for action.
dispel black
They're
aura.
attacking. Eyes open. Sword.
Now since the armsmen use spears, I've given them a range of 2. So what you can do
Eyes
now
open. Sword ready.
is you can send in a front line of recruits. In this case it's just going to be 2 recruits.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Just to demonstrate.
Never give up.
Now we already know they're not going to take a lot of damage. And we're going to send in the spearmen.
Enemy contact.
And you can see they can attack from a range of 2 now. This guy's attacking from further away than the other 2.
Ready for
They're
action.
going to do their thing, do the debuff to deal a lot of damage. And you can see they're attacking from behind the recruits. So now you have a front line of
Awaiting your orders.
recruits, which will take very little damage, and a back line of
Eyes open.
spearmen.
Sword ready, sir.
I did this to make it so that the armsman doesn't
Eyes
replace the
open.
recruit.
Sword ready, sir.
You have to
Securing the
use,
area.
using both of them together is much more balanced than just spamming one or spamming the other.
Way.
The scout was a pretty useless unit
All
before.
right.
They've now been given a really important job, and that is they are armor piercing,
Sir.
which means
Yes,
they'll
sir.
inflict decay. You can see right there the decay's already gone off. They'll
Ready to
inflict
fight,
decay,
sir.
which will decrease the target's
Ready for
armor
action.
significantly. Now this guy's level 9, which is why they're dealing so little damage, but they actually do just a tiny bit less damage than the upgraded marksman.
Yes, sir. Never give up. Yes, sir. Understood.
Where did you come from? Scouts have actually...
Understood. Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
Now the marksmen have been
Awaiting
changed
your
in that
orders.
the upgraded marksmen deal about half the damage they used to.
Awaiting your orders.
When you're firing at multiple targets,
Ready to fight, sir.
they still deal more damage, slightly more damage than the scouts and the armsmen. If I can get it to for some
Yes,
reason.
sir.
Sometimes it doesn't trigger, which is really annoying.
Never give up.
I think it's working now,
Eyes
yeah.
open. Sword ready, sir.
So the armsmen, the scouts, and the marksmen basically all deal about the same amount of damage.
Never give up.
The only difference is that the scout is armor piercing, the armsman is a debuffer, so he debuffs enemies, and he's your anti-black magic unit because he will dispel black auras, and there's going to be a lot more black auras when I rework the enemy races.
Engaging the enemy.
And the marksmen are just
Yes,
raw
sir.
damage dealers. They hit 2 targets at once.
Sir, never give up.
So you're going to want a good mixture of all 3 of them, just because they all do about the same DPS now. No more stacking your army up with just marksmen. Now the new paladins have way
Ready for
better
action.
combat stats, and they now cast Aura of fast fighting, so they will fight non-stop.
Ready for action, enemy.
They also get to keep their Hallow spell, so they still do a ton of damage. I'm actually going to kill them here, because I would want to save these guys as testing units. Now the upgraded Paladin get even better combat stats, but they lose their aura of fast fighting for something really interesting, I think. What they will cast now is a single use of Aura of Eternity, or just Eternity. That buffs your agility, your dexterity, your fighting speed, and your movement speed. However, it will last 5 minutes. So the way to use these guys is as like leaders in your army, because they're way too expensive. Because they cost 200 iron, 200 Arya, and the upgrade is super expensive. The way to use these guys is just to have like 3 of them, 4 of them in your army, let them buff up your whole army, and then send your army in. I've decreased the casting speed on that spell to 100 milliseconds, so it casts really fast. And the cooldown is really short as well, so they shouldn't take too long to buff up a whole army. Just make sure that you spread them out throughout your army, so they don't all target the same unit at the same time. Overall, super powerful, but very expensive. Now the enchanters have been given a shield, and they've got slightly better combat stats, but they use a different spell now. They don't use Hypnotize. What they do now is they use Demoralize, which essentially completely removes enemies from combat. I'll show you here. I'm going to target individual enemies, and what they're going to do is they're just going to run away. And this will last for like 40 seconds. Now you can see it consumes quite a bit of mana. And the enemy's just going to run away. This will reduce the amount of damage your army takes, because you're kind of controlling the crowd. And this is my philosophy for the mages of the human army. I never liked that mind magic was always about disruption and not really dealing a lot of damage, so I didn't like that the mentalists use offensive spells. I much prefer using this sort of disruption tactics. Now the upgraded version of where things get really crazy. They gain an even better shield, and they now use the Utron Battle Mage skin. This is a bit of a weird one. It's super powerful if you know how to use it right. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to back them up because I got caught off guard. I'm going to target individual units. And that's going to cast the Dominate spell. And what that's going to do is it's going to get the enemies to fight against each other. And if you're lucky, the tree rates will be under your control. You get to control them. Now, a unit that has the chain over their head cannot be controlled again, so if the spell fails and you lose control of them, you won't be able to cast it again for a while. You can see here, I won't be able to cast it on these guys. This guy here. Because he's got the chain over his head. So that means they've cast the spell and it kind of failed. So he's going to continue to attack them, but they won't be able to control them again.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Their old Hypnotize spell is kind of represented in their staffs, in that their staffs can inflict Hypnotize now. And they've got much better combat stats. Still not as good as, say, an Armsman or a Paladin, but they can hold themselves in battle. Now, the upgraded Mentalist now uses the Haran skin. And their two-handed staff now has got a range of 2. It's also got a shock spell and a mana tap spell. The spell that they cast now, they no longer do offensive magic, because like I said, I don't like the idea of mind mentalists using offensive magic. Just, it's not really what mind magic is about. So to keep it in the spirit of that, they do something really cool now, but they're very expensive. They will cast Aura of Hypnotization. You can see their mana is dropping really quickly. Now, this is limited. You can't control like a huge army with this, but you can kind of keep control of small groups of enemies like this. And you can feed them mana by getting them to attack units and mana tapping them. Just like the Armsmen, because they attack from a range of 2, you can have them go behind your recruits. So you can have a big front line of recruits and have Armsmen and Mentalists attacking from a range of 2 from behind the recruits, so they don't take damage, basically. Now, Clerics, the upgraded version of the Clerics now casts Aura of Healing. If we do this and pull a couple of them away. Remember, you've got to click the ground, otherwise they won't activate it. Or sometimes they do if they flinch, but the ones that are still attacking don't activate it, so you got to make sure you click on the ground to get them to activate their auras. Very, very powerful, but they do burn through mana very quickly. And now for the really fun stuff. All swarm units, including dogs, now move it very, very fast. So these guys move at a speed of 130, I believe. So they're very good skirmishing units.
We're under attack.
And they also inflict slowness. Here we go. They inflict slowness. You can see it here. So you can use them to slow down fast enemies and just harass archers and healers if you want to. They get to the back line very, very quickly. they're a little bit more useful. I've beefed up their stats ever so slightly, just so they're not complete trash.
Understood.
The
Yes,
Star Mage is the only mage that has an offensive spell, and it's actually a chain shock. So it will bounce from target to target. You can see here this guy took damage as well. His staffs also deal
ready to fight, sir.
3 enchantments each. It's capable of hypnotizing, it's capable of charming an enemy, so putting him under his control, just like the battle mages. It can man attack, it can inflict shock, and it can also demoralize an opponent.
Ready to fight, right away, sir.
So his
Awaiting
staffs
your
are like
orders.
super powerful. He also
Securing the
moves very
area.
fast at a speed of 130, I believe.
my way.
Just because
Yes,
he's a
sir.
flying unit. I'm gonna make all flying units move faster than normal units.
All right. Yes.
Now, cost-wise, a lot of units have had their costs changed. The Recruits has gone up to 60 just because of how much he can tank. The Armsman now, so anything that's not a core, like the weakest units, will now require food. So the Recruit and the Scout, being the 2 weakest units in the army, they don't require food. But all costs have been kind of upped a little bit. The Armsman now requires 10 food. The Paladin is very, very expensive. 200 iron, 200 iron, and 50 food. The Marksman requires 10 food as well. 60 iron and 30 wood. The Cleric requires 25 food. This is just to keep the economy going, because oftentimes food wasn't really that much of a concern, especially late game. Food would stockpile and you'd have nothing to do with it. This way you are kind of forced to be more strategic with your resources. I might remove this in the future, I'm not sure. I'm gonna play a game. I'm gonna live stream a free game map where I've also changed some enemy units and how they work. Just to test how all these changes work, basically. The Battle Mage is very expensive. Remember that he can charm enemies, so I kind of had to put his cost quite high. The Mentalist is even more expensive than that. He now takes wood, and so does the Battle Mage, just to represent their staffs. And because their staffs have enchantments now, so they're quite powerful. And the Aria here is 150, so you have to be very careful. This is not a unit you're going to be getting like tons and tons of. You have like 3 or 4 of them. Any more than that would be kind of wasted, with the exception maybe the Mentalist. You could just non-stop crowd control enemy armies. Like I said, I'm going to test this in an actual match. So if anybody's interested, I will leave a link in the description if you want to watch that live stream.